All right, now, to give us more perspective in terms of how this war is headed, we're joined by Mr. Greg Swenson, who is an international affairs expert. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Mr. Swenson, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Now, this is, of course, day 20 of this war. It does not look like it'll end anytime soon. The question is effectively this: with the Strait of Hormuz now shut, what we are witnessing is a new escalation where Israel bombed the South Pars oil and gas field, and the Iranians have responded by striking these oil and gas refining assets of the Saudis, the Qataris and the Emiratis. This effectively means that the energy prices will now clearly spiral up. In your assessment, is this a part of the strategy by the Trump administration? Because Trump claims that he had no idea that the Israelis were attacking the South Pars oil and gas field.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. I think what the president's trying to do is take out all the military targets, but leave the energy targets or the energy assets in place, because he's thinking already of the post-regime, or at least the post-war stage, where we will want to see more oil production, not less. So taking out oil and gas assets, I think is a mistake.
All right, now, there is a lot of confusion with respect to what Donald Trump's objective now is. And people like Tulsi Gabbard have also come forth and said, contradicting Donald Trump, who said that there was an immediate danger, that the Iranians were very close to acquiring a nuclear weapon, where America's own intelligence assets don't seem to indicate that. Who is advising the American president in this war, and why has he started this war of aggression?
Well, it's not a war of aggression. The war of aggression has been going on for 47 years, thanks to the regime who's been threatening and killing Americans for as long
Mr. Swenson, just to be clear, the war here started on the 28th of February, not when Iran was attacking anyone. This was a war that was started by the Americans and the Israelis, in which they assassinated the supreme leader of Iran. So this war has been initiated by the Americans and the Israelis.
Yeah, you could make that argument that it's a war of aggression, or more likely a preemptive strike. And so, yes, on one measure, it was defensive because Iran, again, has been killing Americans for generations. But two, it was a preemptive strike because they were threatening to obtain a nuclear weapon. They had 460 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. It takes 7 to 10 days to convert that to weapons grade. So, the question is, we hear this word imminent quite a bit. So, what's the definition of imminent? Is it 1 day? Is it 1 week? Is it 1 year? That's debatable. But there's no doubt that even the regime was bragging about having this uranium. And also, at no point did they agree to take down their nuclear ambitions at all. They actually always argued that was their right. And so, in many respects, sorry about the camera, in many respects, this was really not much of a choice for the U.S. and Israel. And again, recall that the Americans offered free uranium for civilian use, and the regime turned it down.
Now, Mr. Swenson, my final question to you is this: not even Donald Trump's closest allies are now willing to help Donald Trump out. Trump is asking his closest allies in Europe to come in and try and reopen the Strait of Hormuz, to take responsibility for the oil vessels that supply oil to those nations. But not even Trump's closest allies are willing to help him out in this crisis. What do you make of Donald Trump's strategy? Has he painted himself in a corner here?
Well, I think there's a variety of reasons for that. And there's not a lot of love between President Trump and some of the leaders in Western Europe, but they're all democracies. They're thinking about their near-term electoral issues. Many of those countries have significant Muslim populations. The war is not popular with the voters. So the democratic leaders of Western Europe have to consider their near-term electoral prospects, and anybody associated with this war might have a problem. Now, that's on the parties of the left for the most part. Even Germany governs from the moderate center-right. But the parties of the right are much more supportive of this, but in many cases, they're not in power. And secondly, you notice the Arab countries in the region are supporting the president on this. And so, you do have this sort of obvious difference between Western Europe, whose militaries have been eroded over the last 25 years, and
Right.
in really difficult positions.
All right, it is indeed a very difficult position, and it needs to be seen as to how this can get resolved, if at all. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Greg Spencer, for joining us with our perspective.